let the virtual world catch up to everybody. All right. We will get started. I want to welcome everybody. Thank you to today's meeting, which is the Life Cycle of Winning Work, Part 2. For those who might not be familiar with the Part 1, Part 2, we had the Part 1 of this topic in June, and this is a continuation. It's an extremely important and layered and complex topic, hence the multiple parts. And I think this is going to be kind of a continuation of a conversation just moving forward. So welcome everybody. My name is Joe McGovern. I'm the president of the Business Development Guild. And we here at the Guild have a very simple, but we also believe meaningful mission. And that is very simple. And that is to be the premier source of coaching, support, and education for the business development profession. We do that through meetings, we do that through certification classes, and when we are able, through fun networking events as well. But here we are, and we want to thank you for being here today. Special thank you to our technology sponsor, the LMI 360. They are an outsourced sales and marketing agency based here in Phoenix, Arizona. They do work around the country and also the world. I want to send a special thank you to Ted Ritter and Carissa Anderson for their continual help on that. And particularly, I want to salute the leadership that we have in Denver. Denver, this is a new market for the Business Development Guild that we started just this year. And we started off with one live meeting before live meetings were not allowed anymore. But just in a very short amount of time, we have a wonderful group of leaders in the industry that have come together and try to get this Business Development Guild moving forward. So we're really thankful and appreciative, and that starts with the folks over at Small Giants, Lauren Bruchetto, Kimberly Werner, Daniel Ferraletto, for taking the reins and being the leader, taking the leadership reins of the local market in Denver. But also, I'm extremely fortunate to have a very impressive advisory board of the chapter. As you can see, it's a wide range of very talented and accomplished professionals. And dare I say that everyone would like to share more about the Business Development Guild. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to any of us. We'd always welcome to answer any questions. Our objectives are pretty straightforward as well. Basically, we're here to bridge the gap between business development and operations. So not only are we here to help advance and elevate the business development professional, but we're really here to help teams become better aligned and more effective in their business development strategy. With that, we'll maximize the return on business development investment and overall advance and elevate the profession as a profession and represent it as a profession. And we do that through collaboration and education through the various meetings that we have today. It is a membership organization. So for those that who are members, we want to say thank you. You are our lifeblood, particularly the new folks in Denver who have joined up as members. For those who have not, we think there's wonderful value. So we can learn more on the website, businessdevelopmentguild.com. You can join, or even for those in the position to renew online. But if you have any questions, and if you'd like to talk through it, obviously reach out to any of us. We'd be happy to share and answer any questions that you have. Number of opportunities to get involved. Mentioned obviously Denver started this year, Southern California, and we started here in Phoenix, Arizona. And I mentioned that we have a number of folks on the call today from a number of geographies. And that's one thing about this virtual world that's really allowed us, is really to expand our geographic reach. It's something that we didn't necessarily anticipate. Not necessarily allowed to do the live person meetings that we all love, but it has allowed us to expand our reach and our geography through this virtual world. So those who are in markets that we are not, if you feel that there's a fit there, we'd love to have a conversation with you. But those who are in these markets, we have committees, and we just have a number of opportunities to get involved, so we'd love to share more. All right, something that we're very proud of and something that we're right in the middle of, and that is our certification program. We're in our 4th year. And a quick note about that, it's our professional business developer certification. Up until this month, it was referred to as a certified business developer, something that we stood behind and liked, but I think the CBD behind people's names had a connotation that I think everyone would realize what that connotation shows. So we decided to change the name, and a number of other professions using the professional as a preface. So we are changing the certification to professional business developer. It is a 12-class over the course of 6 months taught by industry professionals. This year, because of the situation that we're in, it is a virtual live stream program. It is not too late, even though we're in the middle of it, it's not too late. We do record the sessions, and also you can take up classes when we start up again in our next season. So that's on business development. That's on our website as well. We have people on the call today and on our panel today going through the program, which we're really excited about. So if, again, any questions, feel free to reach out. All right, even with the virtual world, we feel we have a number of fun things coming up for the rest of the year. From our Southern California meetings to Phoenix and Denver and various networking events. It's all of our programs are listed on our website. And if you're not on our list, you can go to our website and just click on Get Involved, and that'll get you on our mailing list. So you will be made aware of all the programs that we have coming up. One thing we take very seriously too is our survey. We will be sending a survey out probably first thing tomorrow. So it is something that we take great, lot of focus on every single word that is written. Trust us. A lot of our events, a lot of our topics come right from these surveys. So look for those tomorrow, and feel free to not hold back and share your thoughts on how we did well and how might we want to be able to improve. And also, if you have any suggestions for future topics or future ideas. All right, with that, we get to the main event. And I'm going to turn it over to our moderator, Maggie Bolden, who is the Director of Client Relations at Palace Construction, and another one of those who falls under the category of taking the leadership reins for what we're trying to do here in the Guild in Denver. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing our screen. And Maggie, with that, take it away.
Well, welcome everyone. I wish I could see all of you in person, but I get to see your names on there and maybe some of your faces. So welcome. It's exciting to have this panel that we're going to have a conversation with today. And I encourage all of you to please use the chat feature and send questions. I want this to be as interactive as possible. So I have some questions that we're going to ask the panel today, but I'd like you also to chime in. I'll be monitoring the chat. So please, let's make this interactive as much as we can. Let's try to make it real, like old days. Okay, so with that, I'd like to introduce our panel. But I'm going to have them do the introductions because I'd like them to tell you a little bit about their firm and also what their roles are. So I'm going to start with R&R Engineering. Chris, if you'd like to introduce yourself, and then Todd, and then share a little bit about R&R.
Of course. So Chris Janaszewski, the Business Development and Marketing Manager here at R&R, and we are a land survey and civil engineering company based in Denver for 32 years now, focused on land development. So primarily commercial, residential developments across the spectrum, but over 32 years, you build a pretty good portfolio of projects. So, and my role here is managing our marketing and business development operations. So that is a whole slew of services, everything from the website to our marketing materials to our proposals, as well as meeting with prospective clients and targeting opportunities around town for new projects for us to be involved in.
Great, thank you. Todd.
Yeah, thanks. I'm the Executive VP at R&R. So I mainly focus on, well, besides a little of everything, focus on the engineering and the accounting side with obvious involvements in surveying and everything else. And then the president focuses more on the surveying and some of the business development, but together we encompass everything.
Great, thank you. Brian.
Hey, good afternoon. Hey, thank you to the Denver BD Guild for having us. I'm Brian Molnix with Catamount Constructors. We're a 24-year-old GC based here in Denver, Colorado, with offices in Atlanta and San Antonio. We're a 100% employee-owned company. We focus on senior living, multifamily, industrial, retail, and healthcare. Right now, I cover the Colorado region for all those markets. So thanks for having me, and looking forward to our discussion this afternoon.
Great, thank you. And for the audience, we will be sharing their contact information with you after our session this afternoon. So you'll be able to reach out to them, and hopefully there will be some great projects coming out of this opportunity today. So I'm gonna jump right in. I'd like to understand a little bit more about your business development process. So Brian, I'm gonna ask you, what does the business development process and operations look like at Catamount?
So we're actually right now kind of in the process of changing that a little bit. Business development used to sit on our Denver office is very separated. So the business development department used to sit with marketing, IT, finance, legal, those types of folks. They recently just moved me to where I sit right smack dab in the middle of our operations team. So we're trying to really drive the business development effort through operations and make our operations folks, especially our younger folks, understand what goes into BD. You know, it's not just going out and playing golf and whining and dining and attending events. You're working with many different facets of folks to see a project come to life. So it's very important to get everybody involved and for everybody to understand how BD incorporates into the company.
Great, thank you. Chris.
Absolutely. So we're a firm of 50 or so folks, and when I joined about 8-10 years ago, we were half that size, and our business development was really focused at the top of the pyramid. It was our CEO, who is an engineer, has that technical understanding, and could do and sell. As we grew, the need for having specialized services for business development, for operations, grew with it. So we've got separate departments, surveys, construction staking, and engineering, as well as our business administration side. Thankfully, we're all kind of still grouped well together in the same type of office, so we haven't had to deal with that geographic split until recently, working remotely. We can get into that a little later on. But the way that we like to approach business development, I think, is kind of an augmented seller-doer model, where our business development efforts with myself, with some of our executive leadership, our CEO still, are targeted at the initial new prospective clients and markets, new opportunities that we don't really have a relationship with. Whereas once we have those in-house, meet them up with project managers and the production side of things, have them start to build a relationship on a project, that becomes very self-fulfilling and almost cultivating with the same clients. So it's this kind of BD tip of the spear to get things started, and then a very seller-doer, maintain, farm the client relationships that we have and keep them rolling with our production staff.
Okay, great. And Todd, from your perspective, I know that you're involved in more of the operations side. So how are you working with business development?
As Chris said, it is true that all of us seem to do it at some level, but more on the new. On the operations side, we continually say your best marketing is your product and service. So, I mean, it's really easy for Chris. It's easier to keep a client than to get a new one.
Right, right.
So that is your best marketing. So we talk all the time about communication with the clients on the operations side. What did they want? We talk with Chris and other BD people about, what did they say originally? Are we on track? So it's really, number one, understanding product and service is your best marketing. Mm-hmm. And number two, periodic check-ins on how did it go, or what did we learn on the operations side that Chris should know next time, whether that's because the client didn't say it or just for that type of project. It's really a constant loop.
Yeah, thank you. And Chris, you brought up such a good topic right now, which is COVID. You know, we've had to really shift how we are doing business development. And I'd love to hear from you and Brian how, you know, you all are doing. So Chris, I'll start with you. How have you adapted to COVID and working virtually?
It's we're fortunate at R&R. We had made some investments in our technical and technological infrastructure last year, so everyone's on laptops with docking stations. Everyone has server access remotely. So our transition, when we made the decision to start working more staff remotely, we didn't miss too much. You know, it wasn't our capabilities didn't suffer from it, which was good. What we did need to learn, and what everyone needed to learn, was how do you still maintain those relationships when you're stuck on a screen and they're in their living room or their bedroom and you're in an office, and you don't get to have that face-to-face connection anymore for project kickoffs or for networking or just touching base with folks. So it's placed a much greater, I think, importance on timely communication, on being able to, it seems so old fashioned, but picking up the phone and having those conversations without being able to do it face to face. That's really the next big step. And looking out for value. You know, there's so much, competition for work that's out there now. Stresses are a little higher. The opportunities aren't as plentiful as they were necessarily 6 months ago. So being able to keep in touch, nurture the relationships that you have, try to bring value to them, whether that's looking out for different sites or trying to play matchmaker within your network, has been very helpful as we've kind of made our way through the summer.
Great, thank you. Brian, what's it been like for you at Catamount?
You know, it's been challenging. I'm not going to lie. When we went to kind of work, thank God construction, I should say, was considered essential. We kind of went to a role where we were having people come in as they could and make sure it was less than 50%. As Chris said, our communication has had to really step up, and it's simple things like texting someone that has not been in the office as a project manager to say, hey, did you reach out to these folks like we had talked? You can't just walk down to their office and see them. So there's some people that I haven't seen since March because they just haven't been able to get back here, or they were put out into the field. So it's changed. A lot of it has been more internal focused than external. The external part was easy because you could reach out to folks, text them, do the Zoom, but really making sure to keep the communication line going so that we're not doubling up on someone, having more people call on the same client has been a challenge. And we're just kind of working through it and learning from our mistakes.
Yeah. How has it been with pursuing new opportunities? What's that been like for you?
That, as I said a little bit ago, that hasn't been as hard, I guess. I think Chris said it well, is that there's not as many opportunities. I think there's some tightening in the markets. As I said, we do healthcare. We saw our healthcare opportunities come to a screeching halt just because the hospitals were hit so hard. But we saw other opportunities just go through the roof. Mm-hmm. Multifamily just exploded on us and is exploding. So, we had to change our focus and just discuss as a team as to, hey, let's not bother the healthcare folks right now because they're dealing with a pandemic, but let's reach out to folks that we haven't talked to in 3 or 4 years maybe, or someone that's moved around, and see what they're doing on the multifamily side, industrial side. So that has stayed pretty good. And I would say people were everybody was in the same boat, right? Everybody was kind of stuck at home. For me, it was easier to get a hold of people.
Yeah, thank you. Todd, from your perspective, how has it been?
It's, Brian's right too. The first month or two everybody was adapting and it didn't seem like much was getting done. But in the last month, maybe 2 months, people actually want to meet if they can, even if it's at a coffee place outside 10 feet apart. Like Brian said, it's easier to get them on the phone. I think partly because we've all adapted to at least can video chat in some form. The harder part on the operations side is a lot of other architects, engineers, contractors, or whatever. As Chris said, we were set up great. Every one of our people could, and now we had to learn some of the software. I had to learn how to screen share, and do a few things better than I could and mark some things up virtually. But after the learning curve, all the public agencies and approval agencies, they couldn't have public meetings and they were not set up. I had a number of the other team members that had a VPN that would support 3 people, and they had 2 laptops in the office for 30 people. I mean, they just physically could not function.
Mhm.
And we found out that one of the cities decided didn't tell anybody, didn't post on the website. They closed for 3 weeks.
Wow.
Didn't tell anybody. So, you're trying to get answers. So it really was a couple months of learning and stumbling.
Yeah.
And now it seems like people want to talk. and they want to see face to face.
Yeah.
So I think we've all learned a lot, and it's coming back around. It's just a different way of functioning.
Yeah, that's great. So I'll get into some of the questions. I don't see any questions in the chat, so I encourage all of you who are in this group here to please consider. Okay, great question. Are people getting tired of Zoom calls at all? Brian, I will give you that.
Yeah, it is not hard, Maggie, to schedule a coffee or a lunch right now. I think it's interesting. I'm starting to see things on people's email signatures that will say underneath their name, their company, it says, I'm open to network. I think there's some stuff on LinkedIn that's going around. People want to get out. It's funny, we're in BD, but I think I could play golf 4 times a week right now. Because it's easy to go out and do in social distance. But yes, everybody I talk to, they're tired of the Zoom, they're tired of the webinars. They've been helpful, but let's get back to some sort of networking lunch, social distance coffee.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Chris.
It's been interesting to see kind of the creativity that comes to backfill some of those things. So the lunch meeting, that I think everyone leaned on, and breakfast meetings, those went away. So what took their place? And it was a lot of outdoor patios and coffee meetings. Golf, timing of the year was good. So that there's been a lot of opportunities for that. I'm fortunate that I live pretty close to Wash Park, and I think I've had, a dozen, maybe, a few more, just walking meetings. We'd meet at the park, we'd walk around for a half hour, we'd catch up on projects, and then we'd go on with the rest of our days. And it was very refreshing. And it was a good way to still have that FaceTime with clients.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Todd?
Well, like they said, the face-to-face, I think in the last month, it's been easier to get meetings. It's almost like you can email, you can do whatever, and you might get a response if you say, hey, you want to meet somewhere between us or near your office at a coffee shop, then you get an instant answer.
Yeah.
Hey, Meg,
go ahead.
I think the other interesting thing too is it's been interesting what I've seen lately is if you do reach out to someone and say, hey, do you want to meet virtually? I get a lot of people that go, no, but I'll do a phone call. We're going back to that old pick up the phone, call people, text, whatever. So if they can't, meet or they're out of state, people are willing to talk on the phone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So another question came into the chat to the life cycle question in terms of relationship development. Do they have a longer fuse now, taking more time? What does that look like for you all? Brian, you want to take that?
Yeah, I think it depends on the sector, but I would say yes to all the above. I think COVID has delayed some stuff, so you're seeing a lot of, in our case, we're seeing some stuff push. But you're seeing more and more people involved with projects. Out here in Colorado, land's not cheap. So it's not just, a team of one company doing the development. There's maybe multiple teams involved. There's equity partners involved. So you can't just go out and get a project to go visit, have coffee with someone to get a project. We all know that's not going to happen. And I can give you an example. We just completed a fertility clinic for a doctor here. My first call to her was in February of 2017. We broke ground in February of 2019.
Wow.
But there was 5 different groups involved in it. So I would say the pursuit, the cycle is longer, and it's getting longer due to COVID.
Okay, thanks. Chris and Todd, you want to chime in?
So I would agree with that. We definitely, the pro forma time, that due diligence period of kind of sussing out a site has certainly gotten extended. We've seen things that, were planned to get kicked off, 6 months ago that are still, on the table. They're still sorting that out. And even before COVID, we were starting to see that with folks getting a bit pickier on pulling the trigger on certain projects, just because that land cost is so expensive. It still pays dividends to kind of keep in touch, keep stoking those fires. There's folks that we haven't had a project turn active for probably 18 months that we still touch base probably monthly with, just to say, hey, is it still on the table? Is there anything we can help with? Have you considered these other sites? The benefit to having land survey in our office, in addition to civil engineering, is we really do get eyes on a lot of different parcels for development early. So that's one thing that's kept that value up for us is, hey, have you looked at this? Have you looked at that? Try to keep those fires going.
Great, thank you. Todd, you have anything you'd like to add?
On the production side too, it has extended. Everything just takes longer.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I don't know if it's half caution and it's half the process it takes now to do it.
Yeah, thanks. Some great questions coming in. Thank you all for chiming in. So great question here. When you are meeting in person, what if you are giving your client COVID? You hate to say it, but that can be a reality. So I'm sure you haven't had that situation, but what are your thoughts around that? Any thoughts?
For me, I will ask the client if they're comfortable with meeting. If they absolutely say, no, I'm not comfortable with meeting, I'm not going to pressure them to.
Yeah.
If they say yes, I make sure we're following the guidelines. Are we wearing our mask? Are we social distancing? If we go to a restaurant or like Chris said, a patio coffee, make sure they're comfortable. I would say most of the comments I'm getting back from people when I ask them if they're comfortable. I had one yesterday. The individual told me, I'm at the grocery store 3 times a week. I'm okay. I'm happy to meet you. So I think there's some folks that are just saying, hey, I know this is a real thing. I know it's out there, but I can't live by fear. I got to continue to go.
Yeah, thank you. Chris, do you want to chime in on that?
I was gonna say, I think Brian hit it right on the head. For all these in-person meetings, and granted, there's still less of them than there were. You're having that conversation ahead of time when you're setting things up. Kind of the same logistics of where are we meeting, what are we doing is, what's your comfort level? Do you want to meet outside? Are you comfortable with doing a restaurant? All that's laid out. And for the most part, everyone, there's a spectrum of risk tolerance that people are comfortable with. For the most part, a big chunk of clients and folks that we meet with kind of fall in that middle. Hey, let's meet with masks and we'll stay 6 feet apart, but we can still have a meaningful conversation.
Yeah, thank you. So another great question. This is from my dear friend, Helene Jewett. So thank you. Are you spending more time and focus on building opportunity pipelines and turning to research of new opportunities? How are you handling all that? Chris, you want to take that?
Yeah, I'd say very early on in kind of the pandemic time. So that first 2 to 3 months, when we were fortunate enough that all of our departments had pretty good backlogs, especially our civil group had lots to work on. Our deadlines weren't shifting around too much then. So it was a good opportunity for us to say, okay, markets are shifting, healthcare is going to be impacted, retail is going to be impacted. Where can we suss out some opportunities, whether that's on the public side, in infrastructure, in industrial and distribution, and start queuing those up now. Certainly, maybe a little late to those games to identify those, but then, if you caught it before, but having that, week or two where we could really identify and then start making those calls has been beneficial. It's kind of set the roadmap for some of the folks that we're trying to get projects started with right now.
That's great. Todd, do you want to add anything to that?
He pretty much hit it.
Okay, great. All right, Brian.
Yeah, it depends on the sector for us. So example I'll use is with multifamily right now. I'm not searching out new business. We're just trying to manage that pipeline, manage the current clients we have. Part of our discussion today about this is how do we get operations involved? So with like our senior living and our healthcare, we are doing a lot of research, I would say more so than maintaining pipeline or line, to see what direction those sectors are going, what could change in those sectors. And one of the things I would suggest to everybody that's working with operations is that, this is a good time to get your operations folks involved in your research by having them talk to their current clients as to what they're seeing, what they're having, and then setting up kind of a roundtable with them to compare notes, get what you have, and that way you can kind of plan and look at your forecast, look at your plan for 2021 as to what these markets are doing, but we're doing a lot of research.
Great, thank you. And Brian, prior to you jumping into now your new role, which is more of the operations side, you were focusing primarily on the business development, right? How were you getting involved with the operations side when your sole focus was, just on business development?
Well, so my sole focus today is still on business
It's
development.
still, okay, great.
So, and I think that's one of the things is that our project executives, our operations folks, wanted to collaborate with business development, especially our younger folks. I would say our millennials really wanted to understand how business development worked. So we felt it was best to move me into the operations side. It's taken time. I compare this to, this is my internal client, and it's like calling on an external client as well. We don't wait for them. I don't wait for them to come to me. I go to them. So it's not uncommon to see me just pop into a project manager's office, sit down, just start talking to him, asking him questions. How's the project going? Is there anything I can help you with? Have you talked to the client about what they have coming up next? And then seeing where I can step in and help out. So by moving me into the operations side, it's made it more fluid for us.
Okay, well, great. Thanks for explaining that. Chris, how are you as a business developer or marketer, how are you getting involved in operations?
So I was going to say that proactive approach that Brian just mentioned goes a long way. So used to be popping into those offices almost daily and checking in and seeing how projects are. Since we've worked remote, that's had to be a bit more structured and setting up daily check-in calls just to say, hey, or weekly check-in calls, checking on existing projects. And if those clients have anything new, or if there's any, wrinkles in those projects for future work. It's the way we've got it structured right now is I also, in addition to overseeing our BD stuff, write proposals and change orders. So those change orders that happen throughout a project's duration gives little snippets, gives me good, opportunities to see and check in on those projects. From the marketing standpoint, there's also these tie-ins towards project closeout. So as we get closer to a construction date, we're tracking those so that we can get banners on sites, or we can start requesting referrals or recommendations from those clients. We're going to coordinate with our operations folks on our project cut sheet write-ups and kind of summaries of what we've done. So those little touch points give good opportunities to check in with operations, and from there you can keep them rolling on that client. If there's similar projects that are in the queue as either an opportunity or as a one project, have that relayed over. It just gives good opportunities to have that conversation with them.
Great. And Todd, from your perspective, how are you engaging with business development?
Some of it is the actual proposal review. We'll review the scope. I mean, Chris has got a lot of, shall we say, templates. You know, these are the usual things that should be involved. And fortunately, it usually has too many things in there because it's easier to pare out and say, we're not going to, you know, these are the things that are not part of this one than it is to go, what am I missing? So the good thing is we have, gosh, probably 4 or 5 engineers that actually can review with, you know, Chris will do a draft here. I outlined this, or let's talk to the client together. So operations is doing that on the proposal side, but we have one really good project manager that you wouldn't guess it when you meet him, but he's really good at talking to his clients and just going, you know, oh, you know, what can we help next? What else? Is there anything else that we can help you with? And he does it very well. We have to remind on the operations side, because we get so focused on execute, to have a little more discussion about what's going on or what might be going on. And then again, you've already got the client.
Right.
So why not keep it going?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I have another question from the audience. Can you explain how doer sellers function in your firm if you utilize this model? So Brian, you want to take that?
We do. We utilize the model. We have our PX role is more of doer seller type. So, you know, if they're over a certain sector, I'll meet with them. They'll decide maybe some clients that they're going to take on where I can support them and help them out. But we typically it's certain clients that they're going to go after. They'll hand pick them and have 5 or 6 that they can take on as a doer seller. So we do use that role.
Okay, great. Todd and Chris, you want to respond to that?
I'd say you certainly play to your people's strengths. So if you do have folks that have some specialties in their, you know, project history or in their skill sets, you know, that BD job is almost playing matchmaker with folks. It's getting them, you know, to talk to the right people, and then they're going to do the rest. So especially sectors that have a strong focus on that technical side, you know, need a bit more, you know-how, knowledge, understanding than maybe your run-of-the-mill land development projects. Will bring those pair them up, do some introductions, have them run with it, and then those clients and kind of that network of similar clients becomes that project managers to maintain as well as renew and try to grow. So certainly we'll support in any way we can, but there's definitely a few folks that in our current client group that fall into that category.
Okay, great. Todd, you have anything to add to that?
They both said it, and that is everybody likes to be an expert at something, and most people are at something. So find those and utilize them. Then those people, people think selling is, you know, convincing people of something they may not need.
Yeah, that's so true.
But
yeah.
It's really not. It's asking enough questions to figure out what they want and what they need, and talking them through the pieces so that they get comfortable that you can do it.
Yeah, very true. So a great question here from Tim. How are you as a BD and or your operations people involved in project closeout and client feedback? Brian, you want to take that?
So I don't get involved in the project closeout. We have 2 people that it's a system, it's a process for us. So they handle the project closeout. Now what they will do is when they're done, they bring it back to business development, and I will go do a final project review interview with that client. That works nicely because if it's someone I know, it's a recheck for me. So I can see they may tell you something that they didn't want to tell the operations folks or vice versa. If it isn't somebody that I know, then I can double check to make sure what's your next project if we haven't asked, and use it as a coaching tool for the operations folks. So I do get involved in the project interviews.
Okay, that's helpful. Great. Chris?
I'd say very similar to Brian's is we don't get too involved in our project closeouts. You know, once projects start and they're transitioned over to a project manager, that's theirs to run. That's their client to take care of. So whether that's handling, challenges and problems that come up on a project all the way through to that fulfilling closeout, that's their baby. Now, where we might come back on that is that same idea of, oh, we've wrapped this up. I'd prefer to have that PM kind of run it and start farming, that client relationship so that they're the ones asking what's next. And we've done a good job, I think, having that be the culture here. But certainly, we're there to help. We're there to assist. It's good to have that check-in. We will have, whether it's myself on BD or more often other parts of our kind of C-level management, executive leaders, do that kind of follow-up call. So they haven't been involved hard, too much, maybe outside of the beginning of a project, but they're a very good face for how did we do, proper, unbiased feedback that's going to come through. And that is very, very valuable. It's good for our operations. It's good for customer service. And it's great face time with, another part of our institution.
Yeah, thank you. So I know here at Palace, we like to do more of a zipper approach when we are, connecting with clients. So if I'm bringing a client in, I'm connecting them to multiple project managers. Do either of your firms try to utilize that type of method where you are connecting them to multiple people so that if somebody leaves, that you don't lose that client? Brian, you want to?
Yeah, so that's a great topic, Maggie. I wouldn't say I'm introducing them to the project managers because it's not my decision to assign a project manager to the project. I'm more working with our estimating team as we get rolling on that. Now, where I will get involved is they may come back to me and say, Brian, is this type of person going to work with this type of project manager? And I can give you an example. I referenced the fertility clinic. I remember in probably my second meeting, she told me, she said, do not put a female on your team. She says, I struggle with female authority. And we were going to put a female project manager on it. And when it got back to me, I had to say, no, we can't do that. And here's why. So they will come back to me and ask my advice on the client, but I don't assign project managers.
Okay, thank you. Chris?
I was gonna say similarly in terms of who's working on projects, that's left up to operations, to our department heads. But having that input of, this project manager has similar project experience. Let's see if we can put it in that bucket. These personalities will mesh well or they won't mesh well. This would be my recommendation. But end of the day, that really comes down to our department head's decision.
Okay, thank you. Todd, do you have anything to kind of add to that?
We try to keep track of how those relationships are going. So, calls come in anywhere, or sometimes they go over somebody's head because they think they're not getting. So it's really, remember there's two sides to every story and the truth is somewhere in the middle.
That's right.
So just because a client calls all upset, I can't tell you how many of those I've taken. And then you find out actually it's because the client didn't do their part and they're trying to blame somebody else.
Yeah.
So, just listen and monitor it. Because sometimes if things really you just need a change of a person. For some reason, nobody did anything wrong. Somebody needs to change the scenery and you need to make that change.
Yeah, very true. Okay, so another great question here. How do your firms handle strategic planning, and will this change for 2020, 2021? So Chris, I'll start with you, and Todd.
Yeah. What I was gonna say, I think Todd can elaborate on this.
Sure.
We have a very collaborative decision-making process when it comes to kind of the company direction decisions, so strategic planning.
Okay.
We have a formal leadership group made up of heads of departments and C-level folks here. We meet monthly. We run through a handful of things, mostly check-ins on those departments, but then also I think quarterly, what are we looking at next? Whether that's a little focus on business development, a little focus on workload and personnel, but that's putting the 8 people, 10 people or so in charge in a room and sussing out those things for as they come up. So it's good because you get a lot of perspective and everyone kind of understands how the other side of the office is working. And it usually makes it a whole lot easier to be on the same page as we make those decisions.
Yeah, good point. Todd, you want to add to some of that?
Yeah, so Chris is obviously right. On that leadership side, about 2 months ago, we did what we called a quote Shark Tank, and that was come with 2 or 3 things that if we could do anything or an add-on service or a different service, if we could, what the heck were they? So it was brainstorming, came up with about 60 things, which then, becomes overwhelming. Oh my gosh. Number one, that's too many. So we pared those down to a few that we have pursued and have adjusted. So that's more on the business line. The other, other strategic plan, a more formal process. Will it be different for 2021? Oh, yes. The process has been the same for years and years, and now there's more uncertainty and more, well, we kind of need to be prepared for 2, 3, 4 options. Rather than let's go through our process. It has always worked. This, the world is what it was, and now things have changed.
Yeah, right. Markets have shifted. Yeah, absolutely. The way people buy, absolutely.
Yes.
And what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so we're similar. We take our planning very seriously when it comes to strategic planning. We do a yearly strategic plan that we look at quarterly to see where we need to adjust. We have a 3 to 5 year strategic plan. The interesting part is they really let business development lead that plan, and the C-suite, our CEO, COO, CFO, and presidents really watch over that very closely. So we report back to them on the plan. In regards to the question, yeah, I'll emphasize what Todd said. Hell yeah, it's going to change for 2021. And one of the things I shared with the group yesterday in a meeting I was in is that I don't think we'll be looking at our plans quarterly. I think we'll be looking at them monthly for next year.
Okay, great. So I'd love to know the answer to this question is, what type of advice do you have for younger business development professionals working with operations? So Brian, you want to lead off on that one?
Be patient and enjoy rejection. The operations folks are really about numbers. The younger folks are about instant gratification and have a lot of different things that they're looking at doing. So you just have to be patient. You have to be willing to go pound on their door, visit with them when they're open. But don't be afraid if you get that no. You just kind of have to go back and maybe rethink your question or rethink your request and bring it to them in a different way. That would be my advice to the younger generation. And get out. Don't just sit behind your cubicle. You got to get out.
Okay, thanks. So Chris, what about you? Because you started there when you were a little younger. So you've had a lot of time to really have a lot of changes in your own career.
Yes, so I've been with R&R for, gosh, was it 8 years, a little more than 8 years now. And I started essentially assistant to the CEO for business development and marketing efforts. So right out of college, I was 22, 23, starting to take on this role. And, the best thing you can do is just kind of be a sponge of understanding, trying to pick up as much of that technical understanding as you can, get a lay of the land, understand what is the deliverables that your operations guys are trying to do, what's important to them, and get your understanding for that. Learn enough that you can start to talk the walk, and it helps go a long way. The other thing is, get out there, push. You're gonna make a lot of calls on the external side. You're gonna make a lot of calls, do a lot of set up meetings, and it's not always gonna click, especially when you're younger. it can be intimidating talking to, principals that are in the same role as you that have 30 years experience when you've got 2 or 3, and you just have to, take their tenure with a grain, understand, bring that in, understand they have something valuable to bring to it, understand your market, what you're trying to do, and represent your company best, and grow from there. I will say, for folks that are younger in BD and looking to build their networks, generationally, get to know your counterparts. Get to know the counterparts in your client firms, in your colleague firms. People move around, and while they might not have a lot of decision-making power at a coordinator level or entry, that's the group that is going to be leading departments with you in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years time. So it's Brian said it best: get out there, meet people, start building that network.
Yeah, absolutely. Todd, you've got some advice?
Oh, that's the same thing. When I came from more of a design, build, construction side, and I used to go walk on my competitors' projects.
Oh, that's a great idea. That's a great tip. Yeah.
I'd just pull in with an unmarked car and ask like a neighbor and go, "So, what are you guys doing here? How do you do this?"
Yeah.
Or even go to their booths before they knew who I was.
Yeah,
Go,
absolutely.
so how do you win most of your work? It's amazing what people will tell you, even if they do know you're a competitor. Again, people love to be an expert.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Ask questions of everyone and get to know everyone, especially your competitors. Then you know what they're saying.
Yeah.
You know how to be different and how to be better.
Yeah. I would echo all of those comments and just add that I think it's really beneficial for a lot of young people and, seasoned people to really have a wide variety of people in their network. Some people at the top level, some people at the bottom level, because you just don't know where they're going to go, where that person's next position is going to go. And that person may be at a developer that you can potentially work with. So, and I would also say as young people sometimes don't want to hear what some of us older people have to say, and vice versa. I would just be open to some of the some of the comments that you get, or some of the suggestions that people who have walked in the path a long time, there's a lot of things that they can tell you. And also, I would say look for mentors. Look for mentors from all different perspectives in life. I think it really does help quite a bit. So I will, so let's talk about a little bit so after you've won the project, I think we kind of touched on this a little bit, but I'd like to know if you have any more of a formal type of process. You've won the project, and then the client has a concern with the project manager on the job, and you're like starting out, you're in the middle of it. How do you address that? Do you change project managers? And do you ever get wind of all that? Or do you just kind of just keep moving along? Anyone Brian, you want to kind of take that?
Sure. I think it's twofold. One, I don't get involved in deciding if we're going to change a project manager. There's always two sides to the story, right? And I think Todd kind of spoke on it earlier. Sometimes you find that it's miscommunication. I will get a phone call from a client if I'm involved, and they can be pretty upset. What I will do with that is I will take it back to our Vice President of Operations, share the call, and he kind of takes it from there. Really kind of gets involved and more or less searches out what maybe the real issue is. There's also times where the VP of Operations will come to me and say, I need you to go visit with this client. Here's the issues I see. I want to see what they're saying. So maybe a new perspective type thing. But, it's tough when you change project managers on a job site, especially when you're dealing with some of the stuff we deal with, Maggie, that's 35, 40 million in our houses. So I don't get involved. I just try to get the information and help be a mediator.
Okay, great. Chris or Todd, you want to respond to that?
I was gonna say Todd did. I was gonna say touch on this a bit, but I'd say, I think we try to empower our project managers and the operations group as best we can. So we from that project kickoff, we do that client court, transition, that understanding that this is your guy. There's avenues to go if there's issues, things come up. So yes, I get phone calls. Our C-level folks get phone calls. But we're not your white knights. We're not going to come in and kind of make it okay. Our PMs are the guys that are running the project. They're the best people equipped to handle your project. So let's hash it out all together with them.
Okay, thank you. Todd, anything to add with that?
Last resort is switching a PM. Do everything else first. And even if you have to sit with the PM just because the client needs to see somebody else there, but it's a learning opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what happened? Like Brian said, listen to both sides, listen, take it back. But now it's a learning opportunity. So help them work through it at all costs. Just don't switch if you can help it.
Yeah, good point. So I know it's at 4:30 right now. So Joe, I think at this point we were going to have some networking. Is that still part of our plan?
Hello, yes, thank you, Maggie. And by the way, first, before I get into that, real great interaction, great questions. I really enjoyed everybody's perspectives. Yes, so typically, again, what we try to do with the guild, obviously provide good education, but we talked about networking as well, and this offers an opportunity. We have a pretty good crowd on the line, and if people want to stick around and introduce themselves, kind of continue the conversation that any one of you have started, and just kind of like get to know each other a little bit, we can stay online for that. Be happy to do that.
Great. Okay. And you can all, perfect. I love this. This is great. So I'll just open it up for anybody who'd like to kind of chime in and ask these experts, because this is a really great panel. So chime in.
Maggie, could I start off and
Absolutely.
all these questions? Sorry I don't mean to hog any kind of chat box or any kind of time. So the really good question on the advice to the younger professionals, but we talked about this on our call, and you had a really good point. If we flip it around, and I'll just use me as an example with my gray hair. We're about education, and education never stops. Learning never stops, right? So what can we, as more quote unquote seasoned or experienced BD folks, what's good advice for us?
Yep.
And Maggie, you had a really good point on what you would like to do in terms of like what legacy can be for you. Do you mind if I put you on the spot?
Sure. So for me, my legacy, I like to think of it as I want to help that next generation. I want to help, whether they are working in the company or whether they work outside of the company. My goal is to try to help uplift the next person, because I didn't have any formalized training, and I wish that I had some of that, but I guess I got the School of Hard Knocks, which is okay. But I really want to be able to give back. And I think that's important for those of us who are a little bit more seasoned to find the young up and coming professionals and help nurture them and help mentor them. So thanks, Joe, for that.
No, that's good. Open that up for anybody else too, in terms of, yeah, go ahead, Chris, go ahead.
Chris Smith from Los Angeles with BEI Services, Architecture and Engineers. You said give back. I'm wondering if any of the panel, by the way, you guys did a great job enjoying it. Are you offering your clients any way to help give back other than just your normal services of what you provide, engineering? For instance, we have a affordable housing developer client in LA, and we help them deliver food, and it was actually one of the best things I've done in my career. It was even you know, more rewarding than kind of the day-to-day work. So I'm just wondering if you're doing anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can take, so we're very engaged with various things. Here in Denver, Food Bank of the Rockies. I know last year we did, or I shouldn't say last year, earlier this year, we kind of did a backpack drive for kids, kicking back into school. I know as we're employee owners, this year we decided that with everything going on in healthcare, and we do quite a bit of healthcare, that we would just donate. I think they picked 5 or 6 different charities that benefited nurses and hospitals and first responders. And so I think they gave in the $15,000 and said break it up between 5 charities. So I agree with you. I think that's something that you got to do, and it's important.
Okay.
That's great.
No, it's probably 2 years ago that our firm kind of staff led was recognized that, hey, some corporate social responsibility, some aspect of community give back was important to our staff, important to our clients. So we set up, there's a committee that came together, started identifying opportunities, and we've set up, it's usually quarterly, maybe a little off from that, opportunities primarily internally. So usually just within R&R, but with organizations. We found that Mile High United Way here in Denver has been a great partner for connecting, folks that have time or dollars in the company to folks that need it or organizations that need it. It is fun, I'd say, for one good partnership one. We worked with a traffic consultant that had a national presence, but had just started a small office here in Denver, only two-person firm, and they had their large Thanksgiving food drive, and this 2-person Denver office ended up, I think, coming in second place to their DC headquarters because they had partnered with all of their consultants in the Denver market. So we all kind of piled on each other. Every office was collecting, and they ended up with a truckload of stuff that was able to go to local food bank. So it is great when you have those opportunities to either with clients or colleagues to give back.
Yeah, thank you. Stacy, I see that you're unmuted. Would you like to ask a question?
Well, I was just going to say, hi, I'm Stacy with 360 Engineering, and we have been working with Denver Public Schools quite a bit. We do mechanical and plumbing design, so we've been working with them on a lot of different remodels, mechanical upgrade projects, and some new construction. But we just started working with them in their Career Connect program last year, and we're continuing to work with them this year on a virtual scale, and so kind of adapting our lesson that we did last year in person and offering that virtual. So last year we worked with their Explore program, which is geared towards 9th grade students, and we worked with their Intro to Engineering class. But it went really well, and we're excited to work with more students this year and just, kind of give them a general overview of what mechanical engineering is and what opportunities there are and how it can help the community. So it's been a good experience.
That's
I have
wonderful.
a question. Stacy, I have a question.
Yeah,
Actually,
sure.
Brian and other folks who have been doing some of this community work. Do you think all this would have happened without the COVID thing? I mean, would that still have happened, or not as much, or what do you think?
Well, I don't know. For us, I mean, we started this last year, so
Okay.
it was pre-COVID. So
Yeah.
I think for us, the opportunity came about, and with all of our work that we've done with DPS, it just was a natural fit for us. It worked out well because, I think I was looking for opportunities to give back to the community. But this is, I wanted something that was meaningful and that was fitting for us. And so this is like a perfect fit. So
That's great.
Joe, I would say for us, we did more. Oh, I'm sorry, Maggie.
No, go ahead.
I would say we did more before COVID, actually.
Oh,
It's tough right now because some of those people don't want people coming to those areas. So we may be doing more like cash or a financial donation or whatever. But I would say we did more pre-COVID, before the COVID hit.
oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting. I see Monica and Helene, I know you both had you were unmuted, so I don't know if one of you has a question that you'd like to ask the panel.
Hi, yes. Thanks, Maggie. I'm Helene Jewett, previously with Shen Milsman Wilkie, and I had kind of wanted to pair off with what Joe was asking as far as about training, kind of gaps that you all see within your firms, and what kind of subject or topics do you find your business development and doer sellers needing or wanting, or what do you help facilitate with getting them, more skills in the business development arena? I was so curious about that.
A couple things for me. One that sticks out is a lot of our folks that are in operations that are going to, the doer sellers, maybe even the younger folks in operations that are visiting with clients and trying to do some BD, is they want to deliver everything when they meet with the client. They want to just give them everything when they first see them. And I'm from the school that you always have a reason to go back and see the client. Give them little seed drop, just give them little pieces so that you can continue to go back and visit. And that was my phrase for being patient. You really have to just be patient and let this thing play out. Know your audience. The other thing is that I see this. I see a lot of the folks, as Joe said, the gray-haired folks, but also the younger folks that are afraid to network. I'm not seeing the networking has, I think, dropped significantly. And I'm not, let's take COVID out of it. People don't rub elbows anymore, and they just stand in corners. And I see it when we have open houses here at the office. Everybody just stands in the corner, and it's like, guys, go mingle, go talk to people.
We think that's more with millennials or the older group.
I definitely think it's more with the millennials, but I see a certain group of the older folks that maybe were very technical, very good at operations, that are now getting more involved with that client, that they struggle with that too.
Yeah.
Actually, Todd, you mentioned something earlier. I believe you mentioned something earlier in the presentation about you have a project manager that you quote, wouldn't guess he was so good at it. Why would you say you would not guess? Just because his general demeanor and posture, but what made you preface that?
What he wears and how he talks. I mean, it's almost jeans, flannel shirt, or and if he could, I probably should hand him a pocket protector to go with his shirt. But he's super thoughtful. Once you start talking to him, you just go, oh my gosh, this is not, it's been said, right? People make, 18 judgments in the first 30 seconds they look at you or talk to you.
Sure.
18 conclusions.
Yeah, 10 seconds, and they.
Is it 10 seconds? Is it 18 and 10 seconds? I know it's 18 in less than a minute. So yeah, he would lose 17 of those 18.
But be kind of boring serious on it. Once he starts engaging, it's genuine. It sounds like
it is. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a no BS. It's genuine. He cares. He thinks. He's our best city and county of Denver. If we've got something in city and county, we just hand it, because he can work with the city and county side and actually get him to wiggle his way through and get him to do stuff. Just answer and get answers that would take longer to get. So
Great. I hope he's on our projects.
What?
That amount, but on our projects.
Yeah.
And that also kind of goes to show, you know, I mean, there can be a lot of glitz and glamour to what we do, right? You know, in terms of maybe, maybe not, but in the end, it's authenticity and being genuine. You know, during we have one of our instructors in the certification classes. She is Miss External, you know, extrovert and all that. She goes, I hate to say this, but I think some of the most effective business developers are the true introverts because they come out as more being more genuine. And I'm speaking as an extrovert myself. So we've had this conversation, but it's that genuine and authenticity I think is a really good point.
Absolutely. Anybody else would like to ask a question? I see a lot of people with unmuted, so please feel free to jump in. Okay.
How about any introductions? Anybody want to introduce themselves and their company or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted just to say, since I had the floor, so I previously was Shen, Milsom, and Wilkie, and I, in 2008, started a consulting company, and I'm going to relaunch that company. It's called Strategic Development Services, and so I'm excited. Stay tuned. Watch LinkedIn, and I've got a partner that has joined me, and so excited to just again see what the new world is going to bring. It's scary, but it's going to be awesome. So
congratulations. That's awesome.
And previously, before all of those, you were with Palace.
Palace.
Yes.
That's right. Maggie and I had cut a lot of forests down in the BD world to you know, start the path over there and keep it going. They had a great team too when I was there, and Maggie's knocking it out now. So
yeah, well,
yeah,
thanks
awesome.
very much. Sue, you have been unmuted. Would you like to ask the panel of experts some questions?
You know, I apologize. I had to step out for another meeting and come back, and I actually just wanted to say hello. I'm calling from Phoenix. I see a lot of familiar names on the conference. I just wanted to say hello, and I'm glad Denver's going, and you guys are a lot braver than me in Phoenix. I'll tell you that much when it comes to networking. And I mentioned to my padres in the Phoenix area, I said, you know, we're architects. I work at Corgan, and, you know, we go out to job sites often. And honestly, there is a lot of, unfortunately, COVID transmission. We've had to couple sites with some issues, and we do end up exposing some of our coworkers. So we haven't been able to go back to the office, but we've been super careful. And the fun thing I do with my business development friends, I'm like, hey, tell me if you find a place that's like really, you feel really safe, so I can actually get out once in a while. So I actually just started going out this week, and it's been great. It's been good to get out, but I just wanted to say hi to everybody, and you guys are camp. Sorry I missed part of it. Couldn't be avoided. Life of a business developer, you got to juggle a lot of different things. But hi everybody, and thanks for participating.
Thanks for introducing yourselves. Appreciate it. Lauren.
you gotta do your thing.
We're not hearing you.
Huh?
No, still can't hear.
No.
We got to get your, you're unmuted, we see.
Yeah.
Chris, did you have I think you need to be unmuted too. You raised your hand. Chris Smith, I'm sorry.
Oh, I think we were both waving.
Yeah.
I was saying hi.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
I was wondering if anybody has seen their clients ask for a COVID discount on projects. I think the competition is as it is fierce as it was in the recession period. There was, you know, you're lucky to even have this project kind of attitude. Sometimes those aren't the clients you want anyway, but I'm just
right.
If you've seen that or.
I've heard about it, but I can't say we've had someone say I need a COVID discount. No.
Yeah, same boat. I've heard some industry partners that have had to, you know, navigate that. both on the GC and architectural side, but we've been fortunate that our client base hasn't requested that yet.
Yeah, we haven't had that either. You know, we do a lot of occupied affordable housing renovations, and we're doing 3 right now. And there have been some of the residents, so we're doing occupied tenant in place, and there have been some residents that have tested positive. And so what we've had to do is we have a part of our business also includes disinfection. So we offer a 24-hour emergency remediation. So our crew has had to come in and disinfect before we can go in there and start working in somebody's unit. And then some of our inspectors have will not step foot on our job site until we are disinfecting it for them. So it's been a very interesting journey with occupied renovations. It's and we're on one right now up in Boulder with seniors, and that has had its definitely interesting path too, because you have to have a separate path for your workers to travel versus the residents that live there. So lots of good lessons learned.
I think it's interesting because one of the things I am hearing more from folks is when we have a project and maybe we've been awarded the project or we're starting the project, they'll ask us to make sure we have a line item for COVID expenses. They want to see what we're putting to COVID expenses. So I think what you said, Chris, earlier, it's the right client. You want to make sure you have the right client. And I think those folks are saying, hey, I just want to make sure that if you're going to bill me for this, I can go back and be reimbursed for it as well. Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah, we had an investor for our tax credit properties or projects that wanted a COVID plan. So before we had requirements that we had to put together, and they wanted to know what our COVID plan was before we were awarded the job. So pretty interesting times, yeah. Lauren, are you able to converse with us now?
I hope so. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yay! Okay. I think it was just a setting, but I'm Lauren Burketto. I work at Small Giants. We're a full service marketing agency for the AEC, our industry. I've done quite a few proposals for Maggie. Love working with her. I just wanted to say great job to the panel. I loved all of your advice for young BD professionals. I'm coming from Chicago, so I'm brand new to the entire Denver area, so starting completely fresh. But like Sue said, everyone has just been super welcoming and so nice, and it's been great to kind of get in there, even virtually. I was telling Maggie, it's a little intimidating virtual, but this hasn't been too bad, so
I must say, first of all, Lauren, thank you for picking up the reins from Kimberly, because Kimberly's on maternity leave. So thank you for arranging this.
Yeah, of course.
And I'll be the first one to say, it's going to come as no surprise that tech is not my thing, but I'm working on it, and believe it or not, I'm improving on it. But anyway, yeah, no, Lauren, thank you for picking up the reins and everything that Small Giants is doing. Small Giants is very active in Phoenix as well, very well known, and all that.
Yeah, and I just want to give a shout out before we end all this to the panel, but also to Tim and Katie, who arranged to get Chris and Todd here and Brian here, because I think it's been a great panel, and you guys have had a lot of really great perspectives that you've shared with the audience. So Monica, I know you're unmuted, and if you've got a question for the panel, go ahead. Okay, we're not hearing you.
According to our, there's a chat. I always, I hate to always just ever speak for anybody, but I think Monica is a proud graduate of now the professional business developer. Yay.
That's awesome.
And Sue, and for those who don't know, Sue is a co-founder of the Business Development Guild and was a driving force behind the whole certification concept.
Great.
So yeah,
that's great.
Tie things together,
Chris had a great point here when we were talking about, younger people. It was to encourage them to join organizations of their particular interest. I think that is such a great point that you bring up, Chris. Thank you for doing that. And I'll just add on to that. I would also say volunteer on a board. Board service is really, can really change your career path quite a bit. So I think that is one of the things that I have found to be most useful in my career as I've been doing this for a while. Anybody else? Oh, Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, I've been sitting here the whole time and realized the host had me muted. I don't know what I did to deserve that, but
Really, I know.
hey, I'm Tim, BKBM Engineers, and it's kind of interesting to hear a lot of the comments. And engineers by nature are introverted, and there's few of us that can speak and write, and it's fun to get out and mix and mingle. But I think as far as some of the junior staff, I think you almost have to have them shadow you at some of these networking events, so they're not just stuck in a corner waiting for somebody to come up and talk to them. To just, hey, bring them. Hey, I want you to introduce, my colleague, Bill or Bob or whoever it is, and kind of teach them or mentor them with hands-on training. I mean, you can read manuals and such, and engineers don't get any of this kind of training. And when I heard that the BD Guild was going to start up in Denver, in fact, I think, Joe, I was telling you, where were you guys 10 years ago? That's kind of when I got into this. And yeah, I learned, like Maggie said, the school of hard knocks, and, what to say and what not to say, and so you get a little smarter about that. But that's one thing that I've actually missed during this whole COVID environment, is not being able to get out and mix and mingle. And, sometimes you have as a seller doer, you have one of those days where it's just rough trying to get stuff out the door, and oh, I've got this networking event I got to go to. And then all of a sudden you walk in the door and it's like, hey, this is what I needed all day. I should have done this in the morning, And so I think it's a real opportunity to actually enhance your career, no matter what it is just to get out and, socialize and meet as many people as you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rosemary.
Hey, I just wanted to say hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, fantastic. So I just wanted to say hello and thanks to the panel. You guys did a great job, and I did appreciate all that information. I'm kind of in the same boat with Sue. I'm in Arizona. I'm actually down in Tucson with Lloyd Construction, and yeah, same thing. It's people aren't really networking so much here. It's still very much virtual. And Chris, I love the idea of going for a walk. I'm definitely going to use that one. Put on a mask and just go take a walk with somebody. So thanks for that tip.
Pleasure. It's a good one.
Yeah. We are approaching the hour. I would just like to encourage all of you, if you'd like to, please share your contact information with each other if you all feel comfortable doing that. And so that you all can remain connected, because that's really what it's about. I mean, we are doing our virtual networking. So we might as well make the best of it here. And I'll just put a plug in. There have been a couple of really great books about really virtual selling, and a lot of great tips in those books. So I would, Rain, I will have to send that to everybody, but great ideas that have come out of some of these organizations that have really been researching this topic for a while. So Joe, I'll turn this back over to you.
No, thank you to Maggie. Thank you to the panel. I just want to say thank you, and thank you for Denver. I mean, you guys really kind of come together and put together a great group already. We've only just begun, right? And we're just really thankful and looking forward, to what we all can do. But great panel discussion. I really appreciate it. With that, with that, I will be talking to the crew about our next meeting. Right now, it's every other month, right? But we do have with this virtual platform, we're going to be able to. We have these other chapters are holding additional meetings that anybody can go to. So stay tuned. I think our next virtual is for Southern California is going to be about building compelling teams, and from the tactical to the strategic. So that's that next topic for, just for instance. So stay tuned for the other events in addition to what Denver has in store.
Great.
Do you have an attendee list that you can distribute?
For today?
Yes.
Yes. Good point. Absolutely.
Great. Appreciate that. Okay.
And Maggie,
well,
thank you once again.
Oh, no, it was really.
Great job, Maggie.
Yeah, I really enjoyed, Brian and I are competitors, but already, there's a lot of great camaraderie here. So, and Todd, I really appreciate you jumping in at such a short last minute. Thank you. All right. Have a great day, you guys.
There you go.
All right, everybody.
All right,
Bye
bye.
now.